Hello and welcome again. It's Matt here from Christopher Shaw and of course my colleague James Tiller, and we're finally bringing you another video. It's been a few months since we did our last one, but it's been a very busy few months for us. Obviously the summer months, and in particular with the current demand for property, we've been pretty much flat out, but also not much in the way of legislation news for you. But that has recently changed, and we're going to bring you a couple of updates in this quick catch up with you. We hope you're all well, and we have missed making these for you, but hopefully we'll be able to get back on these a bit more regularly. So James, what's the latest news?
Well, I think firstly, as you're right, I think there's been a really high demand for stock over the summer. That's seen rents rise, I think, generally speaking. We've found that when properties have come back on the market, we've had to do a review on them. Normally we do that anyway, but I think this year it's been particularly strong for landlords. Obviously got to be a bit careful with that, because sometimes you don't want to go into these things and set expectations too high, because the market can go up and down. Of course it can. This year does happen to be very strong, I think.
I think it's been the strongest year in a few years, certainly for properties that have become available. And stuff's gone rapid as well. I mean, the phone calls that we are taking for properties is never been experienced like this before. We are regularly running very thin on stock. Anything that's priced not even reasonably at this point, they can be fairly expensive as well, but it doesn't seem to be kind of dampening appetite. We're still letting everything. We have probably seen in the last 2 weeks the maybe slightly higher end has cooled a little bit more, but anything sub 1100 I think is still very, very busy. There seems to be a real appetite for finding rented property. And I think a lot of people are moving to the area. I've heard this from other coastal towns as well. They've seen a big influx of people either moving out of the cities to take advantage of the work from home aspects. There's been a lot of movement, and I think there's been a lot of recruitment as well, certainly in Bournemouth. Hospitality is one sector for that, but also I think a lot of employers that maybe lost staff during COVID are now doing a rapid recruitment process. JP Morgan is one example of that. We've had quite a lot of tenants from JP Morgan. So it's busy, basically.
Definitely. It really has been. And we've had a few things to get used to over the summer as well. We did our last video was on the changes to right to rent legislation. That's been probably a pretty significant change, probably the most significant change that Brexit in particular has brought to the lettings
More
industry.
so than we thought, I think.
Yeah, but I think actually it's worked pretty well, hasn't it? I think the actual process of running the new right to rent checks on people, the share code, the government website, set up really well. I think there's still a bit of awareness, and there's still a few things that make you scratch your head a little bit, particularly people that are coming across from the European Economic Area that don't necessarily have the settled status thing, but are coming across as visitors. You need to take things like train tickets or plane tickets or whatever to prove because they're allowed a certain amount of time.
It's been quite tricky. It's a bit of a learning curve, but obviously you still have the people that required a visa previously. Nothing has really changed.
No.
But it's people that were in the EU or are still in the EU, and obviously we're not, that need to provide different documentation. Previously they had freedom of movement and they had a certain period of time that they could rent in the UK. Now they do need to, like James says, provide something like a share code or a proof of travel. So we just need to be hot on those. And if obviously you're a tenant find landlord and you do all of your proof of ID yourself, just be very wary that you're getting the right documentation and you're asking the right things, because the fines are very high. And in some cases there are custodial sentences handed out if you get this wrong. So it seems like a small thing, just taking ID when they move in, but you've got to make sure you're getting the right documentation and evidencing that and keeping it safe.
Generally though, I think the feedback from that's been really positive. I think we found it easier than we probably thought we were going to implement, so that's been really good.
Yeah.
The next big change that you may have heard about happened a couple of weeks ago. The government announced a return to the old Section 2021 notice periods. So during the pandemic, so from about March time last year, the government changed Section 21 notices for landlords. Very significant change. To begin with, it was 3 months. Then they switched it to 6 months. Then they came down to 4 months. But now, from the 1st of October, it's returned back to the standard 2 months notice for a tenant if a landlord needs to give notice to them. That will make life a lot easier for people that might be in the process of selling, but also it allows landlords to go back to basically where we were before the pandemic. Now, obviously, there's talk about abolishing Section 21 or no-fault evictions. That's still, as far as we understand, quite a way off.
So
for now, back as it was before the pandemic, which I think actually is a bit of a surprise. I wasn't expecting that to happen. I thought they'd settle comfortably in one of the notice periods they set, but we are where we are now, back from the 1st of October, back to normal notice periods. And the same for Section 8 notice periods as well. They've all returned to pre-pandemic levels too. So that will hopefully be seen as quite positive news for landlords, particularly those that might have had a difficult situation, that have had to either wait this out or manage a quite difficult period through the courts. So that hopefully will be seen positively by landlords that, like I say, in particular might have some trouble.
Yep, absolutely. So that's one positive update. And then after that, there was a recent national report saying that rent arrears have stabilised. But I've got to say, we on the whole have felt quite fortunate again on that aspect.
Yeah, I think so. I think over the course of the pandemic, over the course of what's been going on, I think rent arrears have been pretty stable. Obviously, there have been certain cases where things might have gone wrong, but overall, I think that really the arrears have been pretty stable. So that doesn't surprise me, that report. But it was interesting to see that was things that were coming out this week. It's been Gas Safety Week.
Gas Safety Week, exciting week for us.
That was last week, but it's always relevant. It's always Gas Safety Week in this office because we're making sure that landlords are compliant with their gas safety regulations, making sure they've got their certificates done. Amanda, our property manager, is always dealing with booking those in with our plumbers to make sure that those reports all kept up to standard.
Yeah, I think it's a good reminder as well. We're obviously approaching winter now, and it is traditionally going to be the very busy period for plumbers, and they are going to be harder to tie down to be doing repairs and services. So it could be a good preemptive move to potentially get your boilers serviced if they haven't been serviced in a while. Obviously, we do the annual gas safety, but that is not necessarily a service. If you do want to get your boiler serviced, then do reach out to us and we can get that booked in before they get really crazy. It happens every single year. The weather gets cold. They turn the boiler on. It doesn't work. Pressure's low. Usual kind of things will happen. So it might just be a good preemptive move maybe to get those looked at if you haven't serviced them in a while, to maybe get that done over October or the tail end of this month, so that you're geared up ready for the winter period, and you know that you're not going to be due any major issues. So yeah, October is a good month to do that.
So while we've not been on camera for a long time, doesn't mean we've forgotten about these videos, and we have been trying to line up some experts and just to sort of throw forward to who we might be having on soon. There's going to be more changes to EPCs coming up in the next few years. We did a video last year with Craig, our EPC guy, and he was explaining about some of the changes that are going to be happening in 2025. Seems a long way off, but it's not.
It really isn't.
So bear in mind we're nearly in 2022 now. It is a case of seeing what needs to be done for rental properties, or what the new requirements will be for rental properties from 2025. So we're going to get Craig on again to talk to us about that. We're also going to speak about Legionella risk assessments. It's always been a bit of a funny area, I think. The law is pretty clear and they expect landlords to carry out a risk assessment, but to what depth and what knowledge do you have to do that, and what do you have to document it? And so we're going to find out a bit more about that and bring you some more information about that. So we are working on these things in the background. You may not see us on camera all the time, but we assure you have been very busy and we have been making plans to keep providing content for you.
Brilliant. Well, look, that's it for this time. We will obviously touch back, like James says, when we have our next kind of content or guest on, which will be, as I say, probably EPCs and Legionella, which will hopefully be within the next couple of weeks, and we'll get that out to you. But in the meantime, obviously, we are here for you. If you have any queries, questions, or if you want to get these gas services booked in, just get in contact with Amanda and we'll get that sorted for you. And of course, any other questions, just give us a call.
Lovely. Thanks a lot, guys. Take care. We'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.